Okay, let's talk about some other things that are happening around the NFL, more specifically Seattle, the home of Starbucks, and the home of, a lot of things. No longer the home of Ty Lockett. He has been released by the Seattle Seahawks. He put out a very long letter to Seattle. He's obviously synonymous with that place for a lot of great ball. And now Tom Pelissero from NFL Network, The Arrow, is reporting that DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Okay, so that is Pittsburgh Steelers fan grunting with satisfaction there that DK Metcalf is potentially on the trade block. We've heard nothing from Schneider or the Seahawks whether or not that is true, and if he is available. Once again, we have the Myles Garrett situation happening in Cleveland, and the Browns have only said he's not available. Tone, why'd you get so excited right there, brother?
Well, I mean, because the Steelers have been trying so hard to trade for a wide receiver the last 12 months. It has not happened. Many times. Cooper Kupp, Ayuk, it's just go through all of them. Metcalf has been on the Steelers fans' wish list for a little bit now, and now that he is requesting a trade, not saying it's going to happen, I'm not saying he's going to get traded, but at least my hopes are ready to get crushed again.
I want to let you know, you're not the only one. I look over at the Talks table, both guys are like, yeah. Connor's like, be a great Patriot. Ty, like, great Packer in this entire thing. That's a big name.
Yeah, at the Combine, a bunch of reports came out that the Packers have already, it ended up being false, but there's a lot of smoke that the Packers have already engaged a little bit with the Seahawks trying to get DK Metcalf. The rumor was that they've already offered like a first-round pick for him and maybe like a potential one of their other young receivers. I don't know if that's actually true, but I would assume that the Packers will be very aggressive in trying to get a guy like DK Metcalf if he's available.
Yeah, I think last year as well and 2 years ago, DK has always been kind of one of those guys that any time he's available, it's like, hey, let's go get him. Right now with New England, the big news with wide receivers is A.J. Brown and Mike Vrabel doing the whole entire kind of reunion in that Saquon deal. If A.J. Brown were to be a little unhappy, wanted more money, or if they wanted to, bring back a Mekhi Becton or something like that. But, yeah, DK Metcalf, I think every single team who needs a wide receiver wants DK Metcalf.
Okay, so that's Patriots, that's Packers, that's the Steelers. D-Butch, is he a guy that you should still feel that way if you're a fan base with how he has played as of late? Obviously, we know of the athlete that DK Metcalf is. 0% body fat, can jump higher than you, can run faster than you. Is taller than you and is stronger than you. DK Metcalf is a one-of-one type. He was getting compared to Calvin Johnson. He wasn't happy about it at the beginning of his career. Calvin Johnson physically, obviously, not anymore, but it's like, hey, I am physically imposing as well, which he certainly is. Is he still a guy? And how about Lockett? Is our team going to pick up both of them? And is it Russell Wilson with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Ty and DK Metcalf? Is that what's taking place?
Him and Lockett, very, very different positions right now. But shout out to Lockett, had a great, very productive career out in Seattle for a long time, was a dog. And DK Metcalf is a lot of tread, I think, left on his tire. And when you're game planning for Seattle or wherever he goes, he's still one of those guys that you can't let ruin the game, because at any point in the game he can go for 80 or 90 yards with his explosive ability. There are some things maybe on the sideline, attitude-wise, that you have to deal with here and there, but when you had Justin Jefferson on, usually that comes with a number one big-time wide receiver. But there hasn't been any, at least to my knowledge, any off-the-field things with DK since been in the league. And when you got a 27-year-old that can still take the top off of a defense, if you're a team out there, the Chargers maybe could even be a team that can get in on him and get an explosive weapon on the outside for Justin Herbert. But this is big news for the NFL for him asking out, because Jackson Smith and Jigba became clearly their number one guy out in Seattle last year.
Okay, so Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously a star in the making and star rising in Seattle, especially with new coach and everything. Pete Carroll back in the league, by the way, at a different place, who's very interesting to think about. But they kicked Pete Carroll out, Ty Lockett gone. DK Metcalf going to be gone. It's only a matter of time before that is a whole new, operation. And I'm not saying it's not going to do well. McDonald. McDonald from Baltimore, defensive coordinator for the Ravens, now the head coach of the Seahawks, probably has a vision. Fan base, right?
Yeah, they lost it.
They kind of lost it last year.
Right? Because the Buffalo Bills came in there and stole.
And the Packers big time on Sunday Night Football.
Okay, so you're losing your fan favorites here, potentially. So you're going to have to rebuild. Like, that is going to have to be an actual thing. We'll be keeping our eyes on that.
Did we know DK was going to request a trade? That feels like news to me.
Tyler Lockett being out, DK Metcalf.
I swear every year for the past couple off seasons, the DK trade thing has been floated out there at one point.
I mean, we're alive.
He doesn't think they're a contender. Is that why?
I would assume everybody he knows is no longer in that building, and potentially watching his career slip away while everybody else is having monster success, and especially playoff football. Like, that's whenever you get talked about as being a great, whenever you're on prime time. How many of those will happen for Seattle? Lockett leaving. Obviously, Russ was gone a few years back, but Pete Carroll gets kicked out of the building. They're rebuilding over there, renew. And I'm not saying that means they're going to have a bad year, but they got a whole new vibe, probably whole new culture, whole new team. So DK saying, get me somewhere else. What's that?
Probably more money.
Yeah,
last year of his deal.
Yeah, I thought that he did the same. He had damn near the same deal as Debo.
Bingo.
So wouldn't he be going into his last year? I think, but who knows
They're the
about
same draft
guarantees?
class.
So more money. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why he would potentially request it. And maybe they're at the stage where they're like, all right, yeah, we'll move on. We'll get somebody else. We won't pay DK, who's been a staple of our program. And DK on any team would be awesome.
He's only 27. Feels like he's been doing it forever. He's only 27.
Due $22 million. Tory Dandy negotiated both contracts. Both are on the final years of their respective deals. Samuel has already requested a trade and has been granted such a wish. Now Metcalf, due $22 million, also asked for one. Is that guaranteed $22 million, or is that one of those like
Probably not.
tail end of the contract that's like $4 million
Exactly.
guaranteed out of the 22? I think we should track the shit out of DK Metcalf's
And
contract right now.
With the numbers, too, that some wide receivers make, you'd assume he would want to be up in that 30 range versus 22 no matter what.
Yeah, let alone what the guarantees are in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, if it's similar to Debo, like you kind of have a framework for the compensation that Washington just had to give up, to get Debo. So, like, if teams were like, oh, man, we might have to get rid of a first or a second round pick to get him, like, I don't know if that's necessarily the case when we saw Debo just go for a fifth.